Hi all. I'm going to be refinishing this rocking chair. It's a colonial style from around the turn of the 20th century, so either late 1800s, early 1900s. Here I'm going to mark the rungs going up to the headrest. I wanted to try to make sure that the holes were the same for the rung in question. These were all pretty loose. Glue had definitely failed in most of them. This was from my wife's childhood. It was her great grandmother's rocking chair. It's where I found out there was a nut that was embedded in the wood. I thought it was just a wood screw. It was not. The front joint was about the only one that had any amount of glue in it whatsoever that was still holding. And on these, I marked A, B, C, D. The other ones were 1 through 7. It makes it easier when you're putting it back together to label something where you're not going to see it. And commence the sanding. I sped it up here just to show that I actually did it by hand. No power tools. Yeah, I wasn't going to spare you all of it. I used not a real aggressive sandpaper here because I didn't want to ruin the wood. I didn't want to take it down so far that you start having to go up through the sandpaper grits again. Several of these rungs that were on the backrest were very, very warped. I'm assuming it had gotten wet in its earlier years. You'll see I can put my fingers below this one rung. That was the worst one. This was hot water, just out of the tap. I didn't boil it. I wanted the wood to soak in this, and I left it for several hours in here. And I put 80 pounds of weight on top of it to try to take the bow out. These weights are getting more use than what I'm using with them anymore. Now this was a golden oak finish. Because that's what my wife wanted, so that's what she got. It was a pretty rocking chair. Now I'm just gonna wipe it on. I took an old sock. I'm gonna wipe on the stain. And it doesn't matter what stain you want to go with, whatever your particular tastes are. Wipe it on, let it dry a little bit, and then wipe off the excess. And this is not a one-step poly. I would not suggest using a stain with a polyurethane in it. I just don't like the finish. Now I just took a rag and wiped off the excess stain. That way you get a more uniform look. And I wanted to stain it before I put glue on it, just in case there was, some blowout or some over drips that it would discolor the wood. This was about the color that it was. I would assume that it was whenever I first started taking the finish off. The old varnish had started to peel and was pretty ratty. I just couldn't put something over top of it. So it's better to take everything off and start from scratch than it is to try to fix the areas that would have been horrible to try to match the stain. So it's lots easier if all the stain is the same. Here's the second round that I'm going to put it in. This was after I had stained those rungs that were really warped. They weren't warped as bad in this picture, and then I put another, I think I put another 60 or 80 pounds on top of it again. Just in the area that the worst warp was. I don't have a steamer, so I didn't try to steam them, and I wasn't going to build a steam chamber for just this. Now it comes to gluing it back together again. I just used a regular indoor Type Bond wood glue. Spread it out. Getting in the holes is, you can put it in the bottom and not do anything, but it's better to have it spread all the way around the hole. Gives it a better grip. Should last a little bit longer. Then every hole and every joint gets some glue. Sorry for the background noise. I had my big heater going. It was kind of chilly when I did this. I'm just making sure to spread the glue out. Made sure I had the right rocking bottoms to the right side of the chair. Because the tenons were all different, so the tenons matched the hole. And you could tell this was handmade because the holes were not uniform. The stiles and the rungs and the legs were all different, which I like. I like seeing the difference in something like that versus something made machined. Our great grandparents knew how to put things together. glue and clamp and glue and clamp some more, let it dry. I think I had as much in drying times as I did in working times. Spread it out and clamp it down. This is not mastery in woodworking. This is just pretty much putting back together what somebody else had already done. Almost everybody can do this. There again, glue, clamp, wait some more. This is where lots of clamps come in handy. The more clamps you have, the easier it is. Eva decided she wanted to see what I was doing. I think it was raining this day, so she was in and out. You can see that I didn't get all the warp out of it, and I made sure that I tried to put them back in the holes they came from, but the worst warped ones I had to swap out with some of the others. I put them on the edges, that way it wasn't so pronounced and it wouldn't be an issue for your back when you were leaning back into it. I'm sure there's easier ways to do the things that I do. This is how I learned how to do it. So you tend to go back to how you learned it. Now don't use a metal hammer on anything that you're redoing. This is a rubber mallet. It doesn't mar the wood when you're hitting on it. I just wish I could teach her to bring me clamps and things. Now I took some acrylic paint, and where there was a little glue that was showing, because these holes had been warbled out, and I put some putty in there as far as with some glue and some sawdust that I'd gotten off this, but it just didn't match real well. So I took some acrylic paint and just painted the areas to kind of blend them a little bit better. Now this, I used a high build polyurethane. I wanted it pretty sturdy and a pretty thick coat. The urethane goes down into the cracks, yeah, where the tenons and the holes have been drilled. So it kind of fills in the areas, makes it a little bit stronger. I like an oil finish and wax it. That's my finish of choice. But because of the age of this one, I decided to do a urethane. Now I took 240 sandpaper and I'm just knocking the high spots and any dust or dirt that had gotten into the finish. Read your instructions on or the directions on when reapply times are. This particular one was 6 to 12 hours between. I think it was about 6.5, 7 hours by the time I, got to the point where I was sanding it and refinishing it again. And I took a tack cloth and wiped it all off after I'd gotten the sanding done. And then I blew it off a little bit more. And then I let the air settle some more and then came back later. And then put a second coat on it. This high build, you don't want to put any more than 2 coats on it. The third coat is, you run the risk of it getting really nasty, at least in my opinion. 2 coats is more than enough. Just make sure you don't put it on so thick that you get runs. I was very, very careful, and I did not finish the underneath side of the runners. So the bottoms are stained, they're just not finished. Now this was the last day. This is after it had dried for 24 hours. Thanks for watching.